Building the brand. What inspired the creation of MAEKAN? In a previous life, going to work meant being part of a larger machine whose purpose seemed to make people feel inadequate. It was rooted in rampant consumerism around fashion, sneakers, and material goods. Here you had a large, youthful, and impressionable audience, and the best you could do was to push this superficial lifestyle that created identity through material objects. I wasn't about that life anymore, and it didn't sit well with me. There wasn't one particular moment that set the wheels in motion, but more so a general disinterest in what we were doing. We weren't alone in being part of this feeling of running the hamster wheel, and you could feel the negative vibes that permeated the people around you. It made us wonder, do we sit back and complain while collecting a paycheck, going through the motions without any passion? Or do we venture out on our own and be the change we wanted to see? We've always wanted to take on a sense of greater responsibility and continually improve ourselves. And that could look like anything. It could be from the perspective of work, or simply reading up on your interests and fulfilling a profound curiosity. Increased responsibility to us wasn't about trying to rack up all that was needed to achieve fame and glory. It was about wanting to make a positive mark and hopefully contribute to a community that would be better off than when you first started. Alex and I's relationship began with an interest in street culture, but it grew to be much more. We're still very different people from the perspective of personality and interests. I still haven't given up on using a PC, and Alex loves all things Apple. What I'm terrible at, Alex is great at, and vice versa. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's this common thread that exists through everything we do that revolves around something that's highly considered and detail-orientated. Friendship and mutual respect were at the core of MAEKAN, but for however important it is, you need a vision of what you're introducing into this world. I've always lamented the lack of purpose behind so many things that see the light of day. Purpose was an important part of MAEKAN's identity very early on. It was about making sure that whatever we created could stand up to something more because, well, we were seeking more. Alex and I had outgrown our previous opportunities, and we were confident so had many others. The creative culture we had immersed ourselves in had impacted a lot of people, but many didn't have something deeper to sink their teeth into. These people like ourselves were looking for education, empowerment, and discourse to improve ourselves and those around them. We're fortunate to be part of a community where if the people around us raise the bar, the whole community benefits. We're not fighting or competing against one another. MAEKAN's intention wasn't about creating something that people enjoyed unconditionally. It was about having a point of view to introduce new thoughts and ways of thinking or questioning. We never need to be right, but if you had to bone to pick with something on MAEKAN, the very least would be for us to offer a position and reasoning. As the idea came to loosely form, we also became to realize how we wanted to run and operate a company, our company. Building something new takes an incredible amount of sustained energy, in the words of our friends Abe and Tyler at Outlier. But you also have this beautifully blank slate. How do you want to be perceived? How do you treat yourself and others? What makes the cut and what doesn't? It's all very much within your control. For any startup, experimentation is the name of the game, and when there's no measuring stick, you can virtually do whatever the hell you want. I have a saying that mistakes are perfectly fine and expected, but making the same mistake twice is unacceptable. It couldn't be truer when you have limited resources and you're trying to move quickly. So back to building the brand. We had arrived at a place where the ideologies were generally set, but mind you, we too knew that they were subject to manipulation once we were up and running. But that's a different story. We started thinking, what are the major hurdles we're going to face? Life, paying the bills, and of course, feeding yourself. We were lucky to have an amazing network around us, people that would have given us the clothes off their back. But entering these trying times gives you a swift kick in the ass and can provide a sense of clarity. You're on a short timer to make something happen. If you're destined to do something and make it work, you simply find a way. The problems you fix today are part of a never-ending stream of future problems that will need tending to. For me personally, having a decent job and guaranteed salary also served an interesting role in figuring out who I was after not having any of that. Money generally brings you security and, to some, happiness. Uncertainty around it makes you readjust how you live your life, obviously, but also how do you maintain happiness in this critical pillar of adversity. Readjusting your expectations and being very intentional about what makes you happy becomes really important. You'd be surprised at how many fun things can be done when you're balling on a budget. Great conversation, challenging yourself to learn something new via the internet, and just going out and connecting with people over their stories all cost virtually nothing. But in between all of that, I'd have to say that I'm a weird one in that even before making the jump, I was always pushing myself to take a difficult road when possible. It kind of desensitized me along the way. If you feel uncomfortable on your own terms, it can become second nature when you're in a situation you can't control. A few months ago, we were working out of a co-shared office in Los Angeles and sleeping there at night. The first evening was so cold, but we had no blankets. It was an office after all. We had to make do by layering virtually all the heavy pieces of clothing we had packed. Eventually, our friend Jen Kong would donate some blankets, but we'd still wake up every morning groggy after putting in a long night. The central building lighting system would come on automatically alongside the first workers for the day. Even in the worst of times, you can't let the discomfort and pain detract from the ultimate goal. And you also find comfort in other things. It's almost as though you amplify their value. Building, creating, and having the autonomy to make decisions is invaluable. This surprising freedom alongside that tiny startup salary pushes you to really want to exhaust everything possible to succeed. Things are about to get real around here as we exit beta, and things will definitely change. Looking back at our journey, it's been nothing short of amazing for the fun stuff just as much as the hurdles we've encountered. I've found it immensely humanizing and almost satisfying to not know the answers and to make mistakes. This is coming from a previous role where I was expected to have all the answers. But on the flip side, there's a sense of pride when Alex, myself, and the team all figure out the difficult problems we're facing. As we continue building, it really comes down to having more wins than losses. And there are a lot of things nobody can really predict, and things could go very, very wrong. I've rarely shared my own feelings due to my own personality, but I felt more pride around MAEKAN than anything I've ever done. If I felt it in the past, it was significantly less pronounced. Whether things end up being super successful or a catastrophic failure, I know for certain that regardless of the outcome, work you're proud of will never leave you disappointed.